Hey, my name is Matt. I own a multi-7-figure commercial cleaning company that I built from complete scratch in less than 5 years and on less than 10 hours of work a week. What you're about to see are the 16 types of commercial cleaning clients that you can use to grow your commercial cleaning business even faster. I'm going to give you the pros, some cons, some remarks on profitability, and some competitive considerations for each. With that, let's jump right into number one, which is healthcare. Now, within healthcare, we got some major subcategories. You've got dental, you've got urgent cares, you've got medical offices or specialist offices, you've got outpatient surgery centers, and you have hospitals. Aside from hospitals, you're usually only going to be asked to have your team in there cleaning in the evenings. Sometimes you might need to be ready to provide what's called a day porter, someone that comes in and resets a few bathrooms during the day, depending on how many patients they have. But typically, you're not going to have to worry about that. Now, with a hospital, that could be a 24/7 gig. It's completely different. It's still healthcare, but it's another beast in itself. So the pros with this is they typically have much larger budgets because they need you there more often, doing a deeper and more thorough clean each time. You're going to be able to pay and attract good staff to do this instead of having to worry about a pricing scenario that can make things really tight. They are going to be very cleaning conscious. Now, the flip side of that is they're also very sensitive. They'll be ready to fix any uncleanliness issues if they see anything persisting. They might open up to other companies to come in and bid if you're not doing a good job at keeping things taken care of in their facility, because they go through audits. They have regulations they have to follow. They have sick patients that are in there. So making sure that your process is consistent and that it's strong is an essential part of serving these medical facilities. As far as competition goes, you're typically going to run into some pretty professional companies that are in these facilities. Not always, but they're going to be much more open and needing that professional level of service. So your competition is going to be a lot more intense for the healthcare facilities. And the healthcare facilities are going to have very intense evaluations and standards of the companies they're considering bringing in to provide cleaning services. You can still go after these. We started out with these. I had no customers at all. My first customer was a plastic surgery center, which I had to do terminal cleaning for. I just told them I could do it, and I researched it and figured it out. You can do the same thing if you're starting out or if you're just entering into the medical space in order to build some resilience into your company, which is a major pro and a major benefit to this. Is during 2020, we had about 98% of our revenue tied up in medical facilities. So whenever that hit, we did great. So there's a lot of resilience that's there. There's a lot of growth that's there. The flip side of that, again, is the competition is very fierce when it comes to these healthcare facilities. And then you have corporate offices, which in my opinion are the easiest ones to take care of, depending on how picky they are. But they tend to want to spend a little bit more money if it's an executive style office, because they want to give that really sharp image and that professional experience for their employees and anyone that comes in. But you got to be sure to manage the rotations of work carefully. What do I mean by that? A single office inside one of these big buildings only needs cleaned fully maybe once a week or once a month. But it might need some specific checks done along the way. The trash might need taken out daily or every other day, depending on what you decide with the customer. But if you have hundreds of these offices throughout a building like that, you got to be able to manage that rotation so that your team, first off, takes care of them all and doesn't forget any, but also they don't spend too long in the facility and cost you a lot of profit, if not make your profit go negative because they're spending too much time there and too many resources on cleaning it. So you got to find that balance when it comes to corporate offices. Again, I think they are some of the easiest customers as long as you take care of them. Their needs aren't extreme. Some of the backsides of it are if that company goes down, if that company hits hard times, if a recession comes. We saw that back in 2020. A lot of large corporations shut down. They closed. Some of them came back, and many of them did. Some still aren't back today. So that's up to you to consider what is going to happen with corporate offices, how stable is the business that the corporate office is tied to, and how can you manage the rotation successfully for the cleaning of that space to maintain it properly. Next, we have educational facilities. These are like private schools, sometimes public schools. Most often, you're going to have private schools that are going to be open to having a cleaning contract in place with a commercial cleaning service, or you're going to have a charter school, something that is directed outside of the government. But it is possible, and they do exist, public schools that actually hire commercial cleaning companies to come in and do their cleaning. So what are some pros to this? There's typically a lot of money in this, and it can be very high profit because the facilities are so large and they need cleaning all the time, if not every single day of the week that it's open. So they're typically 5-day-a-week accounts with a lot to do every single time, and sometimes during the day as well as during the evening. Now, there are a couple drawbacks we need to be aware of with educational facilities. The first major one is holidays and summertime. It's not going to be evenly staffed during those times. The students aren't going to be there. The workload for you isn't going to be there because of that. So how are you going to manage your staff? Now, you can do project work during those breaks and during the summertime. So that would be strip and wax, carpet cleaning, different things like that, window cleaning, deep cleanings, resetting the school, whatever it is. As long as they're willing to pay for it, you can pitch it to them and see what they're willing to do. Some schools do have some use during those times. Typically during the summers, they have summer school areas and things like that, but it's still dramatically less than the traditional standard school year. So be ready to navigate that. The other drawback that you can run into with some educational facilities is their budget. They might be a nonprofit, and you have to be aware of that, and they might not have as much money on hand as you need in order to properly take care of the facility. So you got to adjust the scope in order to provide a good service for what they want. We do have a school that my company serves that did have a limited budget. So what they did is they have their teachers set the trash cans outside of the door. That speeds our team up. It allows them to clean even faster. They don't have us mop every square inch of the facility every day. We picked a rotation schedule to go through. So just because they might not have the budget to have a full cleaning done every single time, ideally they would, and that'd be great. But if they don't, you can always adjust the scope and manage that. When it comes to competitiveness for these educational facilities, it can be very heavy. Again, they're not hiring mom and pop commercial cleaning services. They're hiring professional commercial cleaning companies to come in here and take care of this. You can also run into where somebody in the school owns the commercial cleaning service, or in some way they're related to somebody in the school, and so then they get the contract. You can run into that more often in the educational space. Now, closely related to schools are daycares. Daycares have lots of pros. They are messy. They need cleaning at the end of every single day. But just like educational facilities, you can run into lower budgets at times. But again, you can coordinate back and forth with them about that. But I will make a specific distinction between daycares and educational facilities, because daycares oftentimes have a dramatically higher amount of dirt in them, because the kids go outside and they play most of the day if they can, even if it's a little bit wet, so they're going to track mud everywhere. They also have mixed floors. And what do I mean by mixed floors? It means that on top of hard floors, they might have rugs, and they might have tables on top of those rugs, and they're going to have toys, and they're going to have all kinds of stuff in these rooms that you have to be able to navigate, and your team has to sweep and mop around. And you can't just take a wide push broom through there and do an easy sweeping of the room like you could in a medical facility, because you have all these rugs that are in the way. So it's going to take longer to clean the floors in these rooms, sometimes longer than it takes to clean medical floors, because of all the things that you have to account for. And you got to get under the rugs and things like that, because dirt hides, and they will talk about it if it happens. So daycares are very sensitive to how dirty they are because of the nature of all the kids there and putting things in their mouths, but they also get very dirty very fast. And you need to consider that if you get the opportunity to quote a daycare facility as a part of your cleaning services. When it comes to the competition for the commercial cleaning contracts for daycares, it really is mixed at this point. Sometimes you're even competing with their own staff because their staff have been cleaning it for a certain amount of time. Or you are competing with mom and pop, or you're competing with someone they've dealt with for years, or you might be competing with professional companies. So it's very mixed when it comes to this. I'm not sure of any one dominant competitive player in the daycare space. And we can't forget fitness facilities. What is unique about these? First off, again, lots of people coming in. Cleanliness standards are very high. The pros of this is typically they have chains, and there's large budgets for each of these locations that they might have in a chain. So if you win one, you might just go ahead and win them all in your area or as far as you can go. So the opportunity here is huge. But what are some of the drawbacks for fitness facilities? The first major one that I'll mention that we experience with this, and we still handle it, is the scheduling. They're typically 7 days a week, and they have limited hours that you can come in and clean because they don't want you there whenever their members are there. They want the cleaning to be done out of sight and out of mind. Just take care of it. Now that can be difficult because they also have shower rooms, they have locker rooms, they might have a pool area, they got all kinds of different equipment in different rooms. It's usually a very vast facility, and with that, with limited time, you're gonna have to have multiple people there, especially if it's a 7-day per week facility and it needs cleaning 7 days per week. How are you gonna manage that? Because if you have someone working for you for 7 days a week, they're never getting a break, right? They need their weekend at some point. So you're gonna have to have a staff rotation that's in place that is available to clean at the hours that they need it cleaned at. The other drawback I'll mention for fitness facilities is sometimes you are competing against their own internal staff, because their own internal staff can walk around during the day while people are working out and clean in general. They can wipe down equipment. They can go in and clean showers if they want to do that. And oftentimes those fitness facilities do that in order to save money. But again, that's not always the case. So if you get one, be sure that you're emphasizing how you're saving their team time and their team's able to focus on taking care of their members and growing their business faster with your support, because you're in there handling the heavy burden of cleaning in their space. And when it comes to the competitiveness for these cleaning contracts for fitness facilities, it's going to be mixed a lot like daycares. As a tip, it'll help you if you design a program designed just for fitness facilities and you market that to them. That does appeal to them very quickly. The next one I'll mention are funeral homes. Now, the major pro to funeral homes is it's very economically resilient. Due to the nature of their business, they are always going to have customers and they're always going to need cleaning. The con with that is typically there isn't a constant flow of traffic through the facility every single day. So they have plenty of time to do the cleaning themselves, or a lot of times it's the spouse of someone that works there that does the cleaning. But if it's a chain of funeral homes or if it's a very busy one, they do contract out their cleaning services typically. It's a good one to go for. You may not be in there 5 days per week. It might be a once or twice or 3 times per week cleaning. You might have to deal with some weekends for funeral homes, which is completely okay, and maybe you can charge more for those. But those are a few considerations on the pros and cons with that and what you need to expect. On the profitability side, funeral homes tend to be on the lower end, not on lower margins. It's just that the amount of cleaning needed to take care of one funeral home is not much compared to, say, a medical facility. But if you're working on how to start your commercial cleaning business, then this is a great first customer that you can go for. And the competition for cleaning for these is low because of that mixed nature of it, and the bigger companies are typically going for the larger contracts. So if you're starting your commercial cleaning company, then funeral homes are a great customer to go for to get commercial cleaning contracts with. Then we have religious facilities, churches, mosques, temples, anything like that that needs taken care of. I'm going to use churches as the example just because that's what I have most common in my area and what I see throughout our company. They typically only need cleaning once or twice per week. It's very unusual for them to need it 5 times or so per week, sometimes more. But there's some large, very, very large religious organizations that are out there that have a lot of traffic coming through them every single week and meetings going on every day. But there's very few of them in relation to all of the smaller ones. So those very large ones get a lot of the competition. They are very profitable, which is great, but you also have a lot of these smaller ones that if you want to get into that space or you want to start your commercial cleaning company, then you can go for those smaller ones and work your way up and get references for the bigger ones. A major con that you need to think about with this is typically these churches or organizations are very budget conscious because they're not doing things for profit, right? So they have a board that meets, and this board, whenever you submit your quote, will review your quote without ever meeting you. You might meet with whoever's the leader there, you might meet with the administrator there or a facility person there, but they got to typically submit it to a committee or a board of some sort. So you're not able to influence the longevity of it as much. Now, if you are a member at one of these religious organizations, then that is a huge benefit to you if you want to go ahead and get an easy to win commercial cleaning contract for your business. Here's a popular one. It's dealerships. Dealerships get all of the flashy attention. They have all of the money that we think, right? Because they have all these cars they're selling all the time and they're just churning people through there and selling cars. They do have a lot of money and they do need to look nice. They also operate 7 days a week typically. So you have a great opportunity here with dealerships to help them look professional and sharp and to sell yourself as that professional commercial cleaning service to them instead of just trying to cut costs to win their business, because they need to actually look good. That's what they're focused on, is their customer experience. So whenever you come around as a commercial cleaning service, that's the focus you want to take. I would discourage trying to cut price in order to win their business, just because typically it's a lot of hard floors, very little carpet, which means that you're going to have a lot of floor work to do, or your team is going to have a lot of floor work to do whenever they're in there. And complaints will come in fast if they do happen. But a major con with these dealerships is they can change commercial cleaning services very fast. If anything goes wrong, if they think that the cleaning isn't to their standards, they may not even talk to you about it. That's what we've seen happen before, is there's this corner over here, and then maybe a trash can was missed over there. They don't tell you about it. They don't report anything. They don't share that so that you can take care of it or change the staff or make whatever fix is needed. They just store it up because they're so busy all day, every day, selling cars and making deals, that eventually one day they'll just say, we're just going to change the cleaning service. So be very, very sensitive with dealerships and make sure that your inspections are very thorough, that the staff that you have there are doing a complete job. That way the dealership feels safe and taken care of, and they don't need to go change cleaning services anytime soon without telling you about it. So in that way, competition for dealerships can be on the higher end because it is flashy, it is typically very profitable, and a lot of people want to get into it, and they have multiple locations oftentimes. But they are still a fantastic category to go for. Now, this next category, there's entire billion-dollar companies built on just this one, and that is industrial. Industrial is any facility that does manufacturing. They do assembly of parts. They do packaging. They do all kinds of different things to just make whatever it is that needs made that ends up in the store. They're usually very large warehouses with offices built into them. They might have a big corporate office somewhere else in the country or in your territory, wherever it is, and they are needing cleaning all the time. They are used to hiring commercial cleaning vendors, and they call them vendors, and they're used to paying very large sums for commercial cleaning contracts to take care of their facilities. Now, of course, smaller ones aren't going to be paying as much, but the size that these customers can get is absolutely enormous. They have many locations. Most international customers that I've seen or that I've interacted with are industrial customers. So that is a major factor of this, is that the potential is enormous when it comes to industrial. But there's a few cons. You got to really have your processes dialed in. If you got to have a training program in place that they can review. You got to have really solid references, because this is a lot of money on the line and a lot of regulations that they have to follow and make sure they comply with. That way they don't get in trouble. So if they hire the wrong cleaning service and that cleaning service makes a lot of mistakes, then it comes back on them. So you have to show them and prove to them that you can take care of their need and you can stay ahead of any issues that might come up. But to throw in another benefit with them, they are used to dealing with commercial cleaning vendors, is what they like to call it. So if you contact them and you reach a facility manager or their buyer or purchasing department, they are used to receiving requests and people getting in line to put in a bid for their facilities. Now, they do typically wait once a year to every other year, sometimes every 5 years, to rebid for cleaning services. They have a formal process. So you might have to go do a walkthrough with multiple other commercial cleaning contract companies in your area and be present with all those owners or salespeople. I've done it several times. We've won contracts by doing that still. So don't worry about it. Just go watch the walkthrough video on how to do professional commercial cleaning walkthroughs. That'll help you do it successfully. And that being said, you can tell that the competition is very high for these because they are very profitable. Now, the smaller ones get less attention. So again, if you want to enter this space, get used to it, or if you're starting your commercial cleaning business, then going with the smaller ones is a really good idea. But as soon as you can go for the big ones, that's also a fantastic idea to grow your business even faster. Another factor to consider with industrial is they typically want multi-shift coverage. That means they want someone there during the day, someone there during the evening, and possibly someone there all night. And not just someone, it could be a huge team in each of those shifts. It depends on what their needs are in their facilities. Number 10 is restaurants or food service. With these customers, it's my personal preference to avoid messing with the kitchen area. That's my first piece of advice to you. If you can provide services for what's called the front of house, so you can get a chain of restaurants, just clean their bathrooms, their eating areas, their waiting areas, things like that without having to actually do the kitchen cleaning, that is extremely profitable. But you do need to know that it has to happen at odd hours. because a lot of restaurants, you can't get in there until midnight or 2 a.m. They're gonna have cooks in there and staff coming in as early as 8 a.m. So the hours to get in here and do these cleanings can be difficult at times. You can negotiate that, but that's up to you to determine based on the operation you want to have. A hack to winning restaurants is there are people that sell food to these restaurants. You can get in contact with these food company reps and be a special offer that they can give to the restaurant to get you in there. Restaurants have a hard time hiring cleaning companies because of their restricted hours, and sometimes they're asking for the kitchens to be done. So you can grow pretty quickly in this space. The profitability can be pretty good as long as you have your systems down pat and you have a good process in place, and considering that a lot of restaurants have multiple locations. And when it comes to competition, there's very little competition for cleaning these restaurants. If you do want to get into cleaning kitchens, you can get into hood cleaning or just pulling out all their equipment and doing degreaser all over their tile. It gets very specific. It's a very specialized type of cleaning. I would encourage you to do a totally separate training on restaurant cleaning to do that. But restaurants can be great customers. The next category is what I like to call turnovers. This is apartments, Airbnb cleaning. What makes this different than residential cleaning? Well, it's because it's a short-term tenant that's usually there, or you're dealing with a large amount of a very similar type of cleaning. Let's think about this. In a residential cleaning company, every house is different. Every client wants to severely customize their services, whereas in commercial, you're typically in a facility every single day doing the same thing, and you just rotate some things around. That is very similar to these scenarios. Is you're going in doing the same level of cleaning every time. The expectations are clear. The outcome is very clear. There's not too much customizing going on, but there are some scenarios that you need to be aware of. If you walk into a apartment cleaning or a Airbnb cleaning and there's just trash everywhere, it's way beyond what the typical standard starting place is. You need to have a contingency in place for that. You need to have discussed that with your cleaning customer so that they know what to expect what it takes for you to clean that up so that you're paid appropriately. There are some cons that I want you to know about when it does come to turnover cleanings, and that is billing. Typically, they bill after the cleanings are done because it's hard to know exactly how long they're gonna take or how your pricing structure is gonna be for each individual scenario. So they wait until a certain point to receive your bill, and it can take them up to 90 days to get you the check. So you gotta be able to float all of that cash if you're paying other people until you get paid for that first job. So that's a downside to be aware of when it comes to these apartment turnovers and Airbnb cleanings. Obviously, if they can pay you faster than that, that's fantastic. If they can pay you the same day, that's fantastic. One other con to consider is the scheduling. It's not very smooth. It's very hard to hire for these positions. If you win one apartment complex, they might have 1 week, there might be 20 different apartments that need cleaned, and the next week they might only have one that needs cleaned. So it just depends on their move-ins and move-outs that are happening throughout the facility. There's a little bit of a pattern that happens towards the ends of the months, but then the in-betweens, typically there's not too much. So you gotta be ready to have a team that is flexible to handle that. So if you just have a bunch of apartment buildings, then you need to have a bunch. That way it's all spread out. But what are you gonna do whenever you get a lot of work all at once across multiple locations? Be sure to consider that. But obviously the positives are there's a need for it. It's out there. These apartment complexes are used to hiring cleaning contractors to take care of cleaning these units and these turnovers. And the same goes for Airbnb owners and Airbnb companies. When it comes to profitability for these, because of how long sometimes it can take to get paid, it's not as profitable. So be careful with turnovers. Be sure the deal is structured in a way that's helpful to you and that you can make sure you make it until you start receiving your money. And number 12 is construction cleans. These are those one-time projects at the tail end, at the very end of a construction project that's designed to get the space ready for that customer to walk in. So your customer isn't the person who owns the space directly. You're typically hired by the construction company to finalize their project. Now, a cool pro to this is oftentimes you can win the customer that has that facility for recurring services. We actually lost one of our favorite customers because of this when I first started our commercial cleaning company, because they moved to a brand new facility. It was 20,000 square feet. It was about double the size of what we had. at their old facility, and they said, do you want to do the construction clean? Our contractor's asking. And I said, no, we specialize just in handling evening stuff. Well, as it turned out, that construction company hired one of our competitors to do the construction clean. And then what our customer said was, because that competitor had experience in that facility and they did do a good job, they wanted to use that company for that new facility and start strong with them. So I lost that customer because I chose not to do the construction cleaning, which cost me a lot of money in the long run. But the vice versa can happen. If you are the company that does the construction cleaning, you can win even more recurring contracts out of those. What are some of the drawbacks of construction cleans? Again, kind of like turnovers, it can take a long time to get paid. So be sure that after that project's done, you've got enough cash to have paid everybody on your team or yourself before you get paid. It could take as long as 90 days to get paid for one of those projects. The other thing to consider is that each project is different. You sometimes don't know what you're going to run into. If you're newer to the construction cleaning space, there are tons of factors you have to consider that you need to look at, and you need to have the right equipment in there. Because if you're walking into one of these for the first time and you're not prepared, it can be quite a nightmare of a project to finish. And then we can go from doing that first construction clean and working our way through it to then a second one, and we got some learnings out of it, but this second one is still different. There's so many different factors to consider. And then one more con that you need to be aware of is typically they work on a tight timeline. So if they need you to clean a space, typically, as far as when we've been contacted, it's gonna be within a week. And they want us to have a crew there to take care of, say, a 20,000 square foot space within 7 days. So we got to coordinate staff, pull them off of routes, make sure they're taken care of. So if you want to take on construction cleans, make sure that you have your equipment ready and your team is prepared to take it on should one come up. Regarding competition for construction cleans, it's pretty mixed, kind of like daycares. Number 13 would be event centers, oftentimes wedding venues, but that doesn't have to be limited to just weddings. These places have events where they're at, they have a lot of people come in, and then they need cleaned up after. Sometimes they want prep cleaning done before and then after. You might have to get involved with doing laundry services as well, because they need the laundry taken to somewhere and then brought back. So it's up to you to figure that out with that customer, be ready to charge for all that. They might want your staff to put up tables and chairs and set them out and do all kinds of stuff. Again, you've got to set your scope the way you want it, limit it the way you want it, and charge the way that you want it in order to be successful in this space. You can make a lot of money for each event in cleaning each of these, especially if you have a customer that has a lot of events every single month. But a major drawback to this is most events happen on the weekends. And then also they're up really late and the events isn't over until very, very late in the evening. So it's up to you to decide how the scheduling will work. What is the customer willing to be flexible with the scheduling? When can the cleanings get done, and how soon after the event? Does it have to be directly after every single evening? That's up to you to discuss with them. So competition for this style of commercial cleaning client is not very heavy because it's very hard to scale using event centers. But if you're starting out or if you just want some extra revenue, call up all the event centers in your area. You can get a response pretty quick typically. Number 14 is common areas. Typically you get these through property managers and they have a bunch of tenants that are there, but there's this big old space, there's hallways, there's bathrooms, there's entryways, there's stairwells, there's all kinds of stuff like that that needs cleaned, but that's not inside of each of their facilities that they might be responsible for. So that's what a common area is and what the common area cleaning will be. And the pro to this is it can get you in to a facility, which then gets you the opportunity to get in front of all the other suites inside that facility. On the profitability side, directly cleaning common areas is typically going to be bid at a lower rate because they are going to be much more price conscious. The property management company that you're likely dealing with has financial responsibility to the owner. So you have to be very aware that price is going to play a big part in their decision of who's going to move forward on this one. So profitability is not as high, but it can lead to very profitable opportunities. And because of that, the competition for these can be a little bit higher than average. And as a default, you can expect a property manager for a common area or a building owner to be getting multiple quotes for cleaning their common areas. Number 15 would be day porters. Now, this isn't a specific industry or a specific facility type, but this is a type of service that a lot of these different industries will ask for. And the reason that I segmented it out is because it is quite different from doing evening cleaning or standard commercial cleaning services at night. A day porter is more like providing a staffing service for somebody, and you put someone there that's going to be just at that facility for 8 hours a day or 4 hours a day, whatever it is, to handle places that are constantly being used, like bathrooms and break rooms and lobby areas, by the public or by their employees. This day porter is going to care for those. They're also going to be able to answer to the customers. So they work for you, but they kind of also work directly for the customer through you. When it comes to profitability, they can be profitable, but at a lower margin, because your commercial cleaning customers are typically buying a certain number of hours from you as opposed to a certain result. Because if you can do the cleanings in the evenings, you can sell the account, for example, for $10,000 a month. And if it takes you 2 hours a week to clean it, whoa, you just made a bunch of money really fast. But if it takes your team 10,000 hours to clean it, whoa, you just lost a whole bunch of money. So it's very flexible in the evenings, and it's up to you and your team to work faster, to work better, to be more efficient at a fixed price. Whereas a day porter, it's going to be based on the hours. So no matter how many hours they work, the profitability is going to remain the same. Now, that's not always the case. You can have a fixed price day porter situation, but still it's based on the amount of coverage of time that they have in their facility. Competition for day porter positions are typically going to be tied to those larger accounts that professional companies go after that also need evening cleaning done. Because if a facility needs day porter cleaning or a day porter presence caring for them, that means they have a lot of cleaning needs, and it's so much so that they can't wait until the evenings for it to be done. It needs to be done multiple times a day. Therefore, the day porter is there. So competition for these types of customers that would need that can be higher. And then finally, we have property managers. These are companies or individuals that are responsible for multiple buildings. 2 building owners. So a building owner, if they invest in a piece of real estate, they don't want to mess with it, they want it to be passive, they'll hire a property manager to oversee it and decide which contractors get to do what in what facilities, which tenants get to apply and move in, all kinds of things like that. So whenever you target property managers, you could be looking at winning a lot of facilities at once that are also very large. Now, that's not always the case. There's ones that manage small facilities. They might give you one facility to try you out and see how well you do, but they are going to be all about communication, and they are going to be a bit more budget conscious. Keep that in mind when it does come to property managers. So the pro with a property manager would be the opportunity can be enormous, but the cons would be the margin, your profit margin would be lower. Now your profit magnitude, because of the size of the contracts, can be a lot bigger. But the amount you make per facility or per hour, however you judge it, is going to be a little bit lower than the average. Now, because of the enormous opportunity that property managers have, there is a lot of competition, which does cause property managers to be very leery and very wary of new vendors. They are used to working with vendors, but they usually have their favorite cleaning services they like to work with if you're not already in, and it can be difficult to get into that circle for them, to get used by them and to take care of their buildings. But it's not impossible. If you want to see how to get more commercial cleaning contracts, go watch some of the videos on the channel, go to commercialcleaningceo.com and get some free resources and learn how to build your commercial cleaning business faster, whether that's to 6, 7, or 8 figures and beyond. So there you have it, 16 different industry categories that you can target to grow your commercial cleaning business. I'm Matt, a commercial cleaning CEO, built my own commercial cleaning company from scratch in less than 5 years and on less than 10 hours per week of work. If you liked the video, please punch that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one that's coming out soon. And until then, keep building.